The next talk is about where are we with add-ons or something similar to that. Have fun.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my second time at FOSDEM. I will pretend that I know what I'm doing. Last time, Rob and I well ran over. I think this time I'm going to come in under, so we can actually have Q&A this time. So, my name is Simeon Vincent. I'm a developer relations engineer on the Firefox Add-ons team, and I want to give you a quick recap of some of the stuff that we've been working on, some kind of major features and improvements over the past year, and some of the collaboration that we're doing with other browsers. So, let's start by answering the question, what is the current state of Firefox add-ons? And spoiler, I think I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good. And we are continuing to work on it and make it even better. Both the Firefox team and the surrounding community, and that we're very happy to be a part of. So some quick stats to set ground rules or kind of expectations on where we are today. At the moment, we have about 46,500 extensions published on addons.mozilla.org. And that number, I believe, is growing. I don't have historical data right now, but about a year ago, actually December 2023, we launched support for Android, or more accurately, we opened up extensions to be generally available on Android before we had a limited, curated, tiny set of about 20 add-ons. And since then, we've gotten a total of almost 1,900 add-ons available on Android. And we've seen steady growth in this category that developers continue to adopt at a pretty good clip, and they continue to publish useful extensions that people are getting real value out of on a regular basis. Add-on usage continues to grow over the past 5 years. You can see a steady increase in the number of individual users that have at least one add-on installed in their browser. And I think this one is pretty interesting. The distribution of users that have a given set, these numbers are kind of small, but so the first column is people that have 0 or a hidden number of add-ons. Number of users that are using a given add-on. The next category is up to 10 users, and then we have 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, etc. What this tells me is that we have, one of the things that makes add-ons really interesting and powerful is that there's an incredibly long tail, that people are finding value for themselves and for their small communities and reaching users that way, as opposed to just everybody piling onto the kind of current most popular experience. I think that it's also a unique differentiator compared to other ecosystems. Over the past year, we've done a number of improvements to the Firefox client, the platform, and I want to start with a quick look at some user experience improvements that we've made. First, user scripts is a feature that we're going to be relaunching. There was an existing user scripts API, and in collaboration with other browser vendors and members of the community, we've developed a new user scripts API for the latest version of the platform, Manifest v3. And in Firefox, we're going to be shipping that in, I believe we're flipping the flag for 134? 136. Thank you, Rob. Rob is the engineer who's been working on that. So I want to take a quick look at the user scripts experience here. As you can see, when you first install an add-on, or in this case, the add-on is exposing the ability to opt into using the user scripts API in its options page. By default, when you install an add-on that uses the user scripts API, it doesn't just get access to it because it's a very dangerous, very powerful capability, and with power comes danger. We want to keep users safe and informed, so users have to choose to invoke this grant access to user scripts API. The extension is going to request access from it when the user clicks the button. And then the user has to choose to allow the add-on access to this capability that says, allow unverified third-party scripts to access your data. Again, very, very dangerous. We want to make sure that the people who are doing this know what they're doing. If they don't, then we want to make it hard for them to do it by accident. And once you've enabled that checkbox, you can allow it, and then that extension can now give you these powerful capabilities. I also realized I didn't actually say what user scripts are. The current user script model is essentially like a piece of JavaScript that you inject into a page, and that JavaScript usually is developed by a third party, but you can write it yourself, and it will allow you to customize how a web page behaves. And user scripts, notably, Grease Monkey was a really popular user script manager. The developer of Grease Monkey worked on Chrome's extension model, and then Chrome's extension model is what Firefox adopts and is the current platform that's being adopted across all browsers. So, in addition to that user flow, you can always go to the add-on settings page and manually enable it yourself, as opposed to the extension having to ask you. This is important because you have control. Even after you've installed it, even after you've enabled it, you can go through the permissions and make sure that the things that you want the extension to have access to are the only things that it has access to. In the past year, we've also done some pretty big improvements to the debugging experience. There have been a number of bug fixes, but the one that I want to call out in particular is the debugging experience for background scripts. So there was kind of a long-standing bug where as you're developing your code and making changes, you would save a change, you would refresh it in Firefox, and you would not see any update in DevTools. And a fix for that has recently landed. So now, after you make a change, you can click the reload button, and ta-da, the console.log there appears at the end because that was the new line of code that I added. Content scripts are pieces of code that the extension can inject into the websites that you visit. And we've had a couple of improvements and new features related to content scripts over the past year as well. Specifically in DevTools here, we now have the ability to go into the Sources tab, select the gear icon, and then select Show Content Scripts, and now you can see all of the content scripts. Previously, you had to go into the extensions debug experience that was separate from the pages you were visiting, and needless to say, that was a little cognitive dissonance. So this is another great improvement to just the general productivity of building extensions. Another thing that has recently landed, I believe it was in 135, I'm not 100%, is the ability to switch the context for the console. So specifically here, we just loaded the content script so we can see the utils.js from Privacy Badger. In the bottom right, I just, in this case, typed type of browser, because browser is the global namespace that extension capabilities are exposed on. And normally, the browser global doesn't exist on a web page. It's only exposed to extensions. So what you can see here is in the bottom right, you can click on this selector, and we can go into Privacy Badger specifically, into the content script context for it. And then when we type of browser, we can see that this is now an object, that the global variable that we expected to exist is now present. The other thing that I want to call out is over the past year, we've had a good bit of collaboration with other browser vendors. A quick crash course on web standards. I know a decent number of people here are involved in this space, but some folks may not be. So the W3C is kind of the premier organization for web standards, the World Wide Web Consortium. They are the body that handles a lot of standardization of web platform APIs. They have a variety of groups and kind of substructures where specific people are working on different areas. We have, about 3.5 years ago, established the Web Extensions Community Group, which is a body, as the name implies, it's a community group as opposed to like a standards body. But this is the forum that the various browser vendors and members of the community, developers, have been coming together to talk about what the platform is and where we want it to go in the future. So our kind of main goals, the main things that we're focusing on, are reducing inconsistencies across implementations and evolving how browser extensions look and feel. And if you're at all interested in this process, we meet every week. Meetings, everybody's favorite topic. We meet every other Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific to discuss issues and try to advance the current state of the platform. We have also, for the past 2 years, been joining in the W3C's annual conference, TPAC. It's a terrible name. I don't want to explain what it means. Pretend it doesn't exist. It's the W3C's annual conference. We're also meeting on the other half of the year in a face-to-face meeting. Last year, Apple hosted the first one at their San Diego campus. This year, Mozilla is going to host one in Berlin. And we're going to be formally announcing that in just a couple days. There's much more that I wish I could talk about, but I think that we're going to go over to questions now. If you're interested in getting into extension development, I have a couple of resources. I strongly encourage you to visit the Mozilla discourse in the add-ons channel. Ask questions. I'm happy to do whatever I can to support your work and explorations there. Extension Workshop is where you can find a lot of information about developing Firefox add-ons specifically. And obviously, MDN has general web platform API documentation, including on the web extension platform. And if you have questions for me, you can reach me on Mastodon and Blue Sky. And I also hold open office hours where you can schedule time with me to talk about your development experience.
No, they're going to ask the questions now. Thank you. Do we have questions?
I noticed that, many extensions abuse the permission to access the data on all websites. And is there a capability to revoke that permission? Because many of those extensions are still usable without that capability. Is it possible to just revoke whatever they're asking in their manifest, some of them?
In Firefox, it isn't currently possible to, well, that's actually kind of a lie. It is possible to revoke access, but it's not as granular as we would like it to be. That's a feature that we're investigating, I believe. More generally, at the standardization or cross-browser development level, I think we all recognize that access to all pages that a user visits are super powerful and dangerous, especially passive access. So it's something that we want to improve, that we want to change, but it's also really hard, both reclaiming or restricting the capabilities that people currently have. Nobody's excited to give up power. And figuring out how we can build a better extension experience in a way that minimizes access is an ongoing area of discussion, or exploring ways to design new APIs that will hopefully enable that stuff in the future.
Hello. I would like to ask that extensions which modify new tab lost their ability in last versions to clear the URL bar, and there is open issue for that, and there is no closure to it. Do you plan to look into it, or do you have even decided if this API will come back?
I am not familiar with that particular change. If one of the Firefox engineers here is able to speak to it. Otherwise, I'm happy to follow up with you asynchronously to look into it.
We are Firefox engineers here.
There are a handful of people that work on the add-ons team here that probably have more technical expertise on the details.
You have a question?
This is a question from the chat. I see some extensions on Firefox Marketplace have this kind of disclaimer. This add-on is not actively monitored for security by Mozilla. Make sure you trust it before you're installing it. How does this happen, and how can a developer avoid this?
That, I don't think I have a great answer there. So by default, when somebody publishes a new extension, it will fall into that category of extensions that are unmonitored. Generally speaking, I believe the scrutiny applied increases as user count does, but I actually would prefer to defer to Andreas, if you don't mind, to give a little bit more detail. Andreas is a member of of the add-ons team, and he focuses on operations.
Yeah, so one way to have that banner removed is through our recommended extensions set. So we have a curated set of extensions that Mozilla officially recommends. They get a shiny new badge, they get boosted in the search results, and they also have that banner removed. And on the extensions workshop site, there, if you go to that website and search for recommended extensions, you will find a page about what recommended extensions are, what our criteria are for considering recommended extensions, and also how to apply for an extension to become recommended. Either your own extension or an extension that you just like as a user. You can nominate your own or any other extension that you found.
I was hoping I would be able to find it as you were talking.
That's okay.
All right.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I only have 2 extensions installed. One of it is authored by Mozilla itself. And I was, because it's hard to trust third parties, so I narrowed it down. Is there any sort of framework to basically promote an add-on into Firefox itself? As in, not be an add-on?
I'm going to say not exactly. In fact, I think there's been a history of taking some features that were originally implemented in the browser and moving them into extensions that are separate and maintained. The multi-account containers is an example of that.
That's the one I
Yes. But I, again, want to look to the engineering team to say, do you have more experience on the rolling something into Firefox? Or has there been any capabilities that have been developed externally and then added?
Screenshot was a last experiment, I think, where it was an external experiment.
For the audience, Luca, stop.
So we had a reply, but it wasn't on audio. We're going to get the same reply on audio now.
So Screenshot is the best example that comes to mind. It started as an experiment, so it was user installs the extension. It was a test pilot, I think, experiment. Then it was promoted to be like a system add-on, which is like same code base but integrated into the Firefox build, so you don't need to install it. And more recently, we turned it into an integrated component, so it doesn't leverage the extension framework. It's more integrated, so it's kind of like more performant in some ways.
I think there have also been a couple of projects, most notably PDF.js, I think, is integrated into Firefox and Chrome. Is that correct, Rob? There's another question. We'll come back to it in a second.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo the first commenter. We need some kind of restrictions because there is no reason my crypto wallet extensions need to access my banking website. So there needs to be something there.
In particular, I think one of the features that we've been considering is the ability to add exclusion sites. So you can specifically prevent extensions from accessing your most sensitive content.
Yeah, and the second is just saying thank you to whoever approved the video background fix in the early set of Firefox Mobile, because it managed to sell the browser to my friends. It's a perfect YouTube plant.
Just building on that, one of the things that I really like about extensions, why I'm kind of dedicated to this space, is they enable user choice to a degree that you don't see in other computing environments. That we give people the opportunity to choose the experience that they want on the web. And I think that's part of why we continue to see growth in extension adoption across browser users. I think there was a question in the back.
Okay, sure, coming. And that's the last question, because if we don't stop questions, then the next talk can't happen.
I noticed that extensions don't pass, cannot use SSO information. So you can't have single sign-on through an extension. It doesn't have access to the Kuros ticket. Is there any way to get that fixed?
I'd be happy to dig into that a bit more. I don't quite follow, because if extensions have host permissions for the single sign-on origin, then they have access to the cookies on that. And it should be possible to implement a single sign-on experience in a way that works in a browser extension.
Thank you very much.